Hi, this is ePatient Dave DeBronkart. I'm going to be introducing this section on how patient empowerment is improved through social media. The ePatient in my name stands for empowered, engaged, equipped, enabled, electronic, any of the many ways now that, enabled by the internet, patients today are able to contribute more to helping medicine achieve its potential. I am the author with my primary physician, Dr. Danny Sands, of a book called Let Patients Help. That wording is important. It talks about patients helping, but not thinking that they know everything. In this introductory video, first I'm going to define the word empowerment because we have a good functional working definition for it. I'll give you a short version of my own cancer story, including how, by being an engaged, empowered patient, my oncologist says that I helped save my own life. I want to then shift to talking about information theory and cover some fundamental principles of information in medicine today, and then talk about how the internet has changed the flow of information, because this alters how we can work together to achieve the best possible. And finally, I want to leave you with the thought that when a patient is Googling, it's a sign of them being an engaged patient. It's a good thing. So we should not stop it. We should try to improve how well it works. Now, the first thing is the definition of empowerment. A lot of people talk about patient empowerment as a good idea, but is it real and useful, or is it just some nice, warm, fuzzy idea? Here is a great definition that I found at a conference presented by a patient. The definition is that empowerment is increasing the capacity of individuals or groups to make choices about what they want, and then to transform those choices into actions and outcomes. This is the definition the World Bank uses when they go into a new country where people don't know how to run an economy, where they don't know how to govern themselves. It's to increase their capacity to make choices and transform those choices into actions and outcomes. You can see how information plays an important role in this. Information empowers people by improving people's ability to make choices and take action. So realize, if you suppress information, anyone who suppresses information is disempowering the people who could use it, and we don't want to do that. Social media is empowering because it brings us information. Now, a short version of my own cancer story. I discovered in 2007 that I was almost dead from kidney cancer. I had a sore shoulder, I got an x-ray, and it turns out there was a tumor in my lung. The best available information said that my median survival was 24 weeks. Now, importantly, Dr. Sands, my primary physician, recommended that I join an online patient community. And there I got lots of additional useful information that I used to add to what my doctors and nurses were doing for me. Notice it didn't replace them, it added to them. I was doing everything I could to help. To make a long story short, in less than a year, we beat the disease. I haven't had any treatment since then. And in the British Medical Journal, in February of 2013, my oncologist agreed to be quoted saying that he doesn't know if I could have tolerated enough medicine if I hadn't been so prepared. That is being empowered to help improve outcomes. Now, with that as background, consider some fundamental principles of information. The best in medicine requires the best information at the point of need. And that raises the question, how do we get that? Some people believe that doctors should know everything, but that is impossible, and there's new evidence in the last few years of this. See, nobody, no doctor, nurse, or anyone can contribute the best possible. Well, first of all, there's far too much information for anyone to know all the information that could help. The Institute of Medicine, which is the top of academic medicine in America, said in 2012 that there are more than 700,000 medical articles published every year. That's more than 2,000 per day. So it is no insult to a doctor or nurse if a less trained person has found an article that they haven't seen. The second thing to realize is that new information does not spread to all professionals instantly. It takes years. The Institute of Medicine also published a paper in the year 2000 showing that on average it takes 17 years for half of doctors to learn about and start using new information. Clearly, patients can be useful information hunters to help this process. The third lesson is quite a surprise to a lot of people, but not all information in medical journals is reliable, it turns out. And we now have statements from 3 major journal editors saying this. First of all, Richard Smith, who for 25 years was an editor of the British Medical Journal, said in 2009 that most of what appears in peer-reviewed journals is scientifically weak. And then Marcia Angel, who was editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, said in 2012, I believe it was, it's simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research in journals. And just in 2015, Dr. Richard Horton, editor-in-chief of The Lancet, said much of the scientific literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue. So the lesson here is that patients and providers need to work together to figure out what's the best available information. Don't assume that anything is perfect. And how can we move forward trying to close in on a solution that works for the individual patient? And then finally, as shown by my case, see, in my case, I got a treatment that usually doesn't work, high-dose interleukin-2, and it kills some patients. But there was nothing in the literature about how to survive it. And that's what I got from my patient community. The lesson here is that there's a lot of useful information that will never be in the literature, and it's worth finding. My oncologists at Beth Israel Deaconess in Boston welcomed the extra information that I brought to help save my own life. The next big item on our agenda is that the internet has changed the flow of information. 30 years ago, all knowledge lived in the medical institution. All medical literature, all knowledge about who the best doctors were, and so on. And it traveled through a one-way arrow from the top of the medical world down to the patient who knew nothing. That is no longer true, as we have just been discussing. In fact, we now have what we call Health 2.0, where patients sometimes bring information to the case. And the world that we're moving to is a world that some people call Health 3.0 and 4.0, in which we all share information together. The mechanism that makes this work is that social media acts like capillaries, helping information flow in the same way that they help blood and nutrients flow in the body. It is no longer scientifically valid to say that this doesn't happen. So we now understand, and in information theory, this is called shifting from a closed system to an open network. And it alters how things can happen as surely as it alters your access to all other information on the internet. The bottom line lesson here is that Googling, when a patient seeks information, it's a sign of being an engaged patient, engaged, involved, working, trying to understand what's happening. The only reason a patient Googles for a symptom or to learn more about their disease is if they want to understand more, and that can only make them a better patient. So if they're not good at it, don't stop it and tell them to stop doing that. Improve their skills, teach them how to do it better. Nurses and community health workers can be a great resource on this. Now, predictably, the establishment sometimes feels threatened and tells people to stop it, and they strike back. In Belgium, there is an advertising campaign that says if you search a symptom in Belgium, the top Google ad result that shows up says, don't Google it. They're spending taxpayer money on this, and they have 2 professionally produced advertising commercials, a minute-long story, telling people, don't Google it, check a reliable source. Well, Googling and checking a reliable source are not mutually exclusive. You can do both, and I think you should. The problem, you see, is that when reality changes, ignoring it can be tragic. There's a true story that was on Facebook in 2015 where a 19-year-old had died 2 years earlier. She had had an unusual liver cancer, and she'd been cured a few years earlier, but she started to feel sick again. And she and her mother Googled and found out that it had recently been learned this type of cancer could come back. The doctor said, stop Googling, and she died. And in June of 2015, the doctors in the National Health Service in the UK apologized for their role in her death. Nobody wants that. Please realize social media empowers patients by improving their capacity to make choices and turn those choices into effective actions. Please do everything you can to encourage people to make the most of this opportunity to bring the best of medicine to every medical case. Thank you.